monkeys!
And welcome to the GB11 Gaming Channel. Here I'd like to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, Destiny 2. More specifically, Titans. I know Titans have been under the radar and kind of getting the lackluster end of the stick, and I would just like to help Bungie and maybe shoot my shot in the creative team, just a little spitballing here and there, just to see if we can make things, popping for the Titans. Me personally, I've been a Titan for as long as I can remember. I think way back in vanilla Destiny, I stepped into the Warlock role thinking that this was the thing I needed for me, and it just wasn't. I just felt better punching things in the face, and who just doesn't like a good punch here and there, you know what I mean? So today, I would like to talk about Titans, specifically Prismatic Titans. Now, as all of you know, Prismatic Titan has been under the radar, fallen off, just basically non-existent to most of the Destiny community. And to be fair, that ranking kind of goes, now, the most used would have to be, I'm guessing, Warlocks. Me personally, I see more Warlocks than Hunters now, but I'm guessing, I'm about to put up the data soon here and there, but I'm guessing it's Hunters still. So congratulations to you guys. But personally, Titans need love. Titans need love in a dramatic way, in a way that feels like the Titan way. It almost feels like, because we are the first line, and I feel that Titans being the first line of defense, the tanks hit hard. Tanks keep pushing. Tanks reload and keep going, right? And I feel like Titans just don't have that aspect in the current sandbox and the way things have been going as of recent. So here today, I'd like to give you a few things that I've created that, my very own little twab about the Titan Prismatic subclass, fragments, aspects, two specific exotic things that I've been wondering to tweak, aka the Stoicism exotic class item and the Mask of the Quiet One. Mask of the Quiet One to me holds a near and dear place in my heart, mainly because it was one of the first things I picked up when, exotics were a little harder to get and you only had to work with what you had, right? And so I made some tweaks here and that I hope you guys will like and enjoy. So please let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit me up in the comments because I need people to talk to. I'm lonely. So without further ado. Now, looking at the Titan Prismatic subclass, you notice that some things are just not as potent as it should be. There are some things that could have been added. There are some things that could be replaced or just outright removed, in my opinion. Now, I know, but you have your Titan Consecration Slam and you have your Charge Melee, which does absolute amazing amounts of damage. Yeah, to the things that are on the ground. And there are a lot of adds and enemies that are either in the air, there are bosses that fly, there are a lot of things that kind of hinder the melee capabilities of a Titan. Do not get me wrong, I love punching things in the face as much as the next man. I love to give it a good old whack and pack, but at the same time, it's just not possible in certain in-game engagements. So, what I would like to do is show you what I feel the Prismatic subclass should look like, should be, or hopefully in the future will be. Based off of the recent data, Titans really need this in more ways than one. So I'm going to start off by showing you what our aspects should be. And they are Soul Invictus, Tectonic Harvest, Banner of War, and Controlled Demolition. And here's what it looks like, on paper, technically. So I thought that these would be the better options in terms of most of what we have. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Diamond Lance, I love Dringer's Lash. I prefer to keep Knockout, if anything, but for everything else, it's just not worth it. Unbreakable just received a nerf, and on top of that, it just really wasn't something that I felt should have been on Prismatic in the first place. Granted, it is very interesting of an ability to have, but I would rather like to keep just some good old-fashioned survivability and maneuverability, as well as being able to use my actual abilities, such as Banner of War, for example. And don't get me wrong, it's not to say that everything else is wrong, but to be fair, Diamond Lance, it didn't really serve too much of a purpose to me, seeing as how if I was using the stasis wall and shattering crystals and enemies, that I felt as though I should have been getting more bang for my buck. And to be fair, Tectonic Harvest would have been my go-to if I had any seat in the developer's chair anyway. So on top of that, if we can just talk about, survivability as well as damage increase, I would like to look at Sol Invictus. Sol Invictus to me was one of my favorite things next to Roaring Flames. I wasn't a huge fan of Consecration, and don't get me wrong, I love the damage output that Consecration can do. I love everything that Consecration can put out, yet it doesn't really stand too much as a viable option for me when it comes to things like the raids or Grandmaster Nightfalls. I just don't want to put myself in deep, unconditioned danger, So, and I understand that some people are going to be upset about that. Oh, you just don't know how to use it. No, I do. I know how to use it, and I love it. It's just not for me. Now, this doesn't have to just be for you. This is just for the Titans that want more out of the Titan kit. Because, Warlocks have similar things that involve healing and damage output and creating fire sprites and so on and so forth. Hunters have just taken almost most of the Titan identity as far as their melee builds, their ignitions on kills, the freezing ability they have when they dodge, they're one of the most well-rounded characters in the game. And I feel like Titans need a similar push in that direction. Well, yes, we've all seen the numbers. Titans could bump themselves up into a place that feels almost above or at least equal to the other two subclasses. I wish the best for Titans. And so here I would like to show you something that I think could benefit not just the Titans, but the entirety of prismatic subclasses, as well as the Warlocks and the Hunters. And starting with Facet of Aggregation. Collecting an elemental pickup grants ability energy or an elemental buff, depending on the elemental pickup created, such as Void Breach grants Devour, Fire Sprites grants Cure, Ionic Trace grants ability energy, Stasis Shards grant Frost Armor, Strand Tangles, when destroyed, grants unraveling rounds to your strand weapons for a short duration. Next up, we have Facet of Longevity. Your light ability buffs, such as Restoration, Radiant, Devour, and Amplify, have longer duration. Your darkness debuffs, such as Sever, Unravel, Suspend, Slow, Freeze, or Frozen, have a longer duration on targets. While Transcendent, these durations are increased. Next, we have Facet of Amelioration. Rapidly defeating targets with your abilities will grant you increased effectiveness to your light and darkness damage effects. While Transcendent, kills with weapons that share in these damaging effects gain increased effectiveness as well. The effects are as follows: Scorch, Jolted, Volatile, Slow, Sever, and Unravel. And lastly, for our fragments is Facet of Effectuation. While Transcendent, kinetic weapon damage grants increased ability regeneration. Energy weapon kills while Transcendent creates elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. Now that I have talked about what I would like to see on the Titans Prismatic subclass as a whole, there is one more thing I'd like to touch on before I go to the Stoicism exotic class item and the Mask of the Quiet One. Inside of the Prismatic Titans kit is something that I kind of am okay with, yet I wish it would be better. And it is the Titan Prismatic Grenade, also known as the Electrified Snare. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the grenade as far as some of its functionality, I'm really heavily into the jolt portion of it. The snare part, not so much. While I do like the fact that it'll stop some enemies in their tracks, I feel as though it could have a little bit more damage capability tacked onto it, which, in all fairness, I do enjoy what they have made for the Warlocks and the Hunters. Hunters having a grenade that transitions from stasis to a flaming tornado, and then the Warlocks having a grenade that is almost like a vortex of a chilling wind and void, which is great. But I feel as though Titans missed that aspect as well. We missed something along that line of stasis and arc. So I've invented something that involves stasis and arc, similar to a dust field grenade, but also similar to a pulse grenade, which I find to be one of my favorite grenades on the Titan subclass. Now, granted, I was gonna go the route of more of a storm grenade that kind of like rains down like stasis chill shards or something. I don't know. I was just spitballing with some friends of mine, and I decided to come up with most of what you see today. So, without further ado, here is the grenade that I created. Cryogenic Oscillation. A grenade energized with stasis and arc that rapidly chills and freezes targets that are touching or inside it, while simultaneously shocks and chains jolting to targets inside and near the grenade as well as nearby targets. Now, in terms of grenades, when it comes to the Titan Prismatic subclass, I feel as though this would be a far better option than the electrified snare. And even if you think about the electrified snare, it sounds more like a hunter thing than anything else. With the entrapment and the small amount of jolt and sting that you get here and there, I understand some people have a favorability toward this thing, but let's face it, how many times have you thrown that grenade and it bounced like a frag grenade? It bounces away from the target, it bounces off walls, when in all actuality, it could just be just like a dust field grenade and just like a pulse grenade, where when it hits the target, explodes on impact, causing its consistent damage, and, you know, giving you that power fantasy that I believe you deserve, that we all deserve as Titans. And to be fair, Warlocks, like I said earlier, have a void and stasis grenade. Hunters have a solar and stasis grenade. Well, I feel as though it's just time for Titans to have a arc and stasis grenade. It would just roll smoothly with everything else in their platform that they've created as far as every other subclass. Not only that, but I feel it would prove much more of an advantage in the field and in in-game content than just to snare something for a little while and they get loose. Whereas if I freeze them in the dome, they stay frozen for a little longer, and the longer that they're in that dome, they would just refreeze again. With the consistent shock and joltage of it, I feel as though it would make a much better tool in the Prismatic subclass. Now, Mask of the Quiet One. Now, I enjoy this exotic, but it just never really was the exotic that it could have been. It never felt as powerful as it should be. And hopefully with what I've created, or rather retweaked, hopefully they will implement something similar to what I've written down here. So, Dreaded Visage, my rework, gains health and shield regeneration from rapidly defeating targets when health or shield is low. Gain ability energy when taking damage or dealing damage to targets that damage you. Now, it's very specific, somewhat similar to what the original Mask of the Quiet One's perks were, but I feel like this may give it the edge it actually needs, while not as, overpowering as One-Eyed Mask was, and it's not, game breaking. It's just specific target based. I feel like it'll give you a better chance at healing and gaining energy back. Something that it was originally supposed to do at a higher scale than it is now. So hopefully that looks better. But moving on to the last thing that I would like to talk about, well, one of the last things I'd like to talk about is the Stoicism exotic class item. Basically, all I'm trying to do is change its drop rates. Change its drop rates, or rather increase its drop rates. So, starting with Grandmaster Nightfalls and the Pale Heart will guarantee 2 exotic class item drops upon completion. This is available one time per character when the Pale Heart Grandmaster Nightfall is available. Next, increase drop rate percentage from 2.5 to 10.5%, same as the 1000 Voices Fusion Rifle while farming chests. Drop rate increases by 3% with each overthrow level completed, so when at level 4 overthrow, the drop rate percentage is maxed out to 22.5%. Note, difficulty at level 4 is slightly increased. Now, the main reason why I increased the percentage at level 4 is to, well, while everyone's already farming the chest, running around the map, picking up what you can, I feel as though it would give a greater incentive to do the content on the planet, or rather in the Traveler, aka the Pale Heart. Now, I understand some people do not like doing overthrow, and I understand that, but I feel like from a Bungie perspective, this would give players more incentive to not only play there, but it would give them more reason to, get back in the grind and get back to farming what they want most. Now, yes, I do know that they have implemented some changes for the exotic class item for Zerg, which is fine. I don't know if that's permanent. I might have to go back and look at that. But as far as overall changes, I feel like these 2 options would be a much more viable option in the future, so that people can, have a better chance at grasping the role they want and, do it with friends. Oh, and lastly, the Eververse store, or just some additions to her store. 1. Make all unobtainable previous seasonal rank armor rewards, shaders, legendary weapon ornaments, emotes, sparrows, and finishers available as cosmetics for purchase. 2nd, or lastly, bring back previous yet unavailable activity armor sets and shaders as purchasable cosmetics. For example, Trials of the Nine, the shader, and Black Armory Forge Ignition Armor. Now, keep in mind, the only reason why I mentioned these specifically, or rather some cosmetics such as the Trials of the Nine and the Black Armory Forge Ignition Armor, is mainly because people who haven't gotten the chance to play those activities, who haven't gotten the chance to see these things in action or get the chance to grind it out, they'll never see this unless they see it on someone else who's played those events, who's had the chance to revel in such luxuries. But I know some people are going to be like, well, I earned my armor. I earned the shader. And we're not taking that away from you. We're not taking that away from you. We're just saying, hey, since you can't share, maybe we can buy it. Maybe we can, earn it a different way. But I don't see that happening due to, the current roadmap for Destiny and all of the situational things that have been happening among its staff. I feel like this is just an easier way to push out the things that people might be looking for or want to try and dabble in. Keep in mind, I am doing all of this, if you wonder about the quality and why some of it's kind of bad or whatever, the vocals or whatever, audio rather, it's because I'm doing this off of a phone and there's no mic, there's no, extravagant setup, there's nothing special. It's just me, a phone, and some editing apps I downloaded for free. So, thank you for tuning in and watching. I truly appreciate you guys. If you can somehow get this to like any mainstream creators that you might know, if you want to break this video down and, send it as clips to some people that you might know, whatever the case may be, just to get this into Bungie's ears and eyes, I'm okay with it. I'm doing this completely free. I'll do anything for them for free, because let's face it, I care more about the game than I do money. And this game has pulled me through some tough times. It's like a toxic relationship. I can't let it go, but I need it. I need it. So I'm just here to create power fantasy. I have things for warlocks. I have things for hunters. I have Crucible map creation ideas. I have Guardian, which I might put out before Guardian Games comes out. But I do have an idea as to how to make that feel like a real Olympic sport. So if you can, tell Bungie, tell your favorite creators, tell the mainstream, tell whoever you need to check this video out, share it, like it, subscribe, comment. call me, text me, please send me an email or a note in a bottle. I love you guys. I appreciate you for everything you've done, even if you watched it for a second, a minute, an hour, however long you need to, even on repeat. I appreciate this. Thank you again for coming to the GB11 gaming channel, and toodles.